I have the utmost admiration for you. The amount of lives that you would have saved. It's incredible.
Come here, mate.
Thank you.
Come here.
Thank you, my friend. In this episode, we sit down with Luke Ambler, the co-founder of Andy's Man Club, the biggest men's mental health charity in the UK.
Our goal at Andy's Man Club is to have a group within 30 minutes of any guy in country. It's around 1,200 clubs. What most people don't know is about Andy's Man Club. What I think is the most beautiful thing of Andy's Man Club is that when I just dropped my daughter at school, I was talking to a mate and a guy just came up to me and just says, you're the Andy's Man Club guy, aren't you? And he said, I just want to let you know that I want to be able to drop my daughter off at school today if it weren't for your group. You'll have heard of like the Mexicans' theory on death.
Oh, no.
It's 3 deaths. 1 when you die, 2 when you go ground, and 3 when the last person on this earth mentions your name. On that belief, both Andy and Liam are still very much alive out there because their names are mentioned every single day.
If you feel comfortable, can you tell us about Andy?
Yeah.
This episode is not to be missed. I hope you enjoy it. Luke, founder of the biggest men's mental health charity in the UK, 335 clubs, just under 7,000 members a week, thousands and thousands of lives saved. Why?
Deep first question. It's probably hard saying this with yourself, Satya, because the idea of starting Andy's Man Club was that no other family had to go through what we've been through, and unfortunately hundreds, if not thousands, still have, which then deepens that desire just to keep going. It strengthens every day. Yeah, it's great. There's numbers you came out then about how many we're helping, but then there's also thousands still just struggling in silence. So the why obviously comes from deep meaning of Andy and the loss there, but the why we keep going is once we opened up the parapet of getting men to talk, you can't then close that, and now I guess we can't stop, won't stop until hopefully we'll make a real big dent on this epidemic.
Yeah, I was saying to you before how excited I've been for this episode. 1, because I followed you since the beginning, and 2, the first talk that I ever gave 7 years ago. At this point, I didn't realise you could actually make money from public speaking, and I was just like, no, just give it to this charity. This charity, Andy's Man Club, they're amazing. Just give it to them. And I remember seeing the check that they'd wrote, and then 7 years later.
Bless that, appreciate that.
No, it's just mad that we're sat here now 7 years later, and everything that's happened in the last 7 years to have you on. I've followed your work from the beginning, and I've obviously Andy's Man Club alone. It's absolutely amazing what you've created and the work that you're all doing. It's phenomenal, and like I said, thousands and thousands of lives will be saved. So it's a bit surreal sat here, mate. So
it's mad. And do you know what? I think it's still, until I sit down and have conversations like this, because I'm so full on, as we were talking off camera, I probably never sit and appreciate enough just how far we've come. I mentioned a minute ago about, and we might get into it, about I think our longest conversation. It's probably the first time ever in AMC's history I've just sat there, and it might have been a spiritual thing. The event we held were just underneath St Paul's Cathedral, and sun was setting, St Paul Cathedral glaring down. I remember just sat there thinking, well, we're in the middle of London. This is from a little idea in Halifax, a little town in northern Yorkshire. And here we are in London, and we've got Mr. Motivator up dancing, and we've got people coming and sharing the stories live on stage, and business people walking past, and people are looking down, and just that image still sticks in my head. It gives me goosebumps of St Paul's Cathedral, which is obviously an iconic building, just staring down. So, yeah, it's been some journey.
Yeah, it's incredible, mate. And what are the plans moving forward? Do you have a number of clubs in mind before the end of 2026, and then maybe before the end of 2030? What's the plans moving forward with it?
So yeah, we've never shared this. So our goal at Andy's Man Club is to have a group within 30 minutes of any guy in country. So there's only one way you can really measure that is by McDonald's. So if you think about it, McDonald's are within 30 minutes of everyone at any point. So we looked at how many McDonald's was, and then we shaved a bit off because they have 2 at service stations. They have them everywhere. So it's around 1,200 clubs you'd need to get that. So if we continue growing at the rate we're growing and reduce it a little bit just for all sorts of different circumstances, we should hit that by 2030. So we're currently at 335 groups. I envisage by end of this year we'll be well over 400 groups. And when I was far north as Inverness, to as far south as Cornwall and everywhere in between. So it's quite surreal when you're driving in your car, you're going down, you're just with your family, you're going somewhere and you see the logo pop up in the middle of Devon or wherever. So the goal is just to keep trying to offer more avenues for mentor. The talking groups themselves are great, but into 2026, which is, we haven't really shared this with anyone, but we're doing podcasts, we're doing Resource Centre's website. We're trying to give guys who aren't ever going to attend the Andy's Man Club more platforms, because not every guy's comfortable. I was speaking to a guy at gym just a week ago. We both sat there, up next to each other on the, in front of a mirror, in front of dumbbells, and he just said, "You're Luke Ambler, aren't you?" I said, I always think it depends who was asking it. I said, "Yeah." He said, "I just want to say thank you.
Yeah.
My son's been using your group." I said, "Why?" He said, "He were in a really bad place." And then we both started lifting. I said, "Oh, it's a great, mate. A real powerful moment." We started lifting. He went, "This is my therapy, And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Weights." He said, "This is where I come." He says, "And his Man Club's great for my lad, but this is me." And I says, "Weirdly," I said, "This is me too." I said, "People don't know. I think I must want that." And I think any way that guys can get out, whether it's Tom's Talks, whether it's podcasts, whether it's any format, that's what I want to be promoting. I want to promote happier, healthy societies.
100%. And it's not one size fits all, is it? Like you said, there's so many different things out there that people can do to better their mental health. And for me, I'm the same. Like, exercise is my therapy, the gym is my therapy. Don't get me wrong, I'll share everything with everybody, much to my wife's dismay. She says, "Oh, you're just too up and you talk too much." Some things just keep to yourself.
Yeah.
So like the other day, we're having a little girl, and she's like, "Can you stop telling people what we're going to call a girl? Like just be a surprise when the baby's born." I just like to share everything.
I get, I think we're very alike. I overshare about when she actually gave birth and what happened there, and how some bad stuff there and some funny stuff, and she's just like, "I'm me, Like, you don't need to tell people this stuff." But I think that's what makes it so good, in it. Like, when you have got that natural ability to share stuff.
Absolutely.
It doesn't then become fake, does it? It becomes more real and raw.
Definitely. This episode of the Tom's Talks podcast is proudly sponsored by Unthin, the hair growth company that's helping people feel more confident in their own skin. From supplements to topical product, Unthin is deeply rooted in the science behind helping people with a healthy hair and scalp. You can use the code TOM20, that's TOM20, for 20% off at the checkout. Thank you to Unthin for supporting honest conversations around mental health. Why is it you've been doing this now, you've been doing your speaking for 12 years, Andy's Man Club 10 years. From your experiences, why is it that you think that men find it so hard to talk?
So this would be a very different answer to I would have given many years ago. I used to come up with the usual, what I've said for years, which is it's stigma, it's burden, weakness, embarrassment, which are all true. But then I went and visited Auschwitz, and it completely changed my perspective on it all, right? So I read a book called The Twins of Auschwitz. It talks about two young girls, and one of them, Eva, didn't ever open up to her sister when they were getting all these horrible tests on them, because she didn't want her sister to have any worries. She had to be the beacon of hope to her sister, so she had to put a brave face on at all times to her sister. And then I started thinking about at the same time that our granddads, great-granddads, would have all been going to war, or maybe been conscripted to go to war. And I don't think, and I hope no one takes offence to this, but I don't think there'd been any benefit to me and you jumping off boat at Normandy and saying, "I'm feeling a bit anxious today. I'm a little bit low today," because that wouldn't have helped us in any way. So in that period of time, you'd have had to create an ironclad mentality of, is that this is all going to be okay no matter what. Let's get on with it. Let's man up, and let's just face this head on, because we're about to get shot at. And sitting here and weeping is not going to help us. Then what I think happened is that there's the old saying about tough times create strong men create good times. We're in very good times right now, even though we don't believe it. We're in very, very good times. It's safer now than it ever has been in human history to be alive. I know we've got a lot of other problems, but as a result of that, it's created a lot of other issues. Social media, what you talk about, drug problems, alcohol problems, ways that we get entertained, etc. Which now means that the mentalities of bottling up no longer work, because we're no longer going to war. So actually expressing a lot of that built-up trauma is necessary. But what we've got is granddads who taught fathers and fathers who taught sons. But I do see a big shift. You're working in schools, you'll see. What we often do is that the pendulum always swings way too far. We never get a middle ground. So I'm a big believer in that we should talk about how we feel. But I'm also a big believer in that you've got to take action. So just talking about how you feel over and over and over will never fix the problem that you're facing. You've got to take a new action. So I think that as much as good work's been done encouraging people to talk, and we're sort of smashing through a lot of those old school stigmas, there's also a lot of lessons to take from past on resilience and of overcoming and of facing hard times, and that life ain't perfect. And I think what makes life so beautiful, which people don't appreciate, is just how hard life is. And I think once you accept that, and I've seen your content, and I think once you have a realization of the hardships you've been through that you can't change, and it's here teaching you something, and what can you do with it, life changes.
Yeah,
I think you'll have found the same, right?
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. And it's the message that I'm always trying to put across, especially in the schools, because sadly, well, you'll know yourself, the lack of resilience that you find in kids these days is zero. And I'm saying to these kids, if I can stand here after losing my brother in the way that I did and having to see what I saw and do what I do now, then that just goes to show that, when you go through hard times, embrace it. Yeah, it's hard in the moment and it's hard after it, but you'll come through the other side a stronger person. But I love what you said then about we need to talk, because we absolutely do. We need to talk, especially men, get that weight that sits so heavy off his chest. But you need to take action. And that's the missing piece, I think, for so many people. People, especially in Barnsley, in Halifax, in Yorkshire, men talk, but then go to a boozer and then get pissed up and whatever else.
Yep.
And then makes the problem 10 times worse.
Decisions.
Yeah. Whereas, obviously, the way that we're doing, I'm encouraging people to talk and saying, talk, but then, find your therapy. Is it the gym? Is it cold water therapy? Is it just going outside and, spending 10 minutes outdoors and getting some fresh air? Rather than resorting to these bad ways of finding that dopamine, whether it's doom scrolling, substance abuse or whatever it might be, find the good ways of getting that dopamine.
It's expression, isn't it? And
Yeah.
I think we say talk because people can relate to that we're talking. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of stuff where I probably have had a hard time and think, me talking about this ain't going to actually fix this.
Yeah.
Actually, what's going to fix it is me go and deal with the problem. And I think what we now don't have, I think we live in a microwave society where everyone
What do you mean by that?
So 2 minutes pudding, it's done. We want everything. So
Absolutely.
your missus, maybe yourself and anyone else, will order stuff on Amazon, and if it don't come tomorrow, they don't order it. And I always think of a funny one with my partner, that she would order something on Amazon and go order something, and if it can't come, so tomorrow's Wednesday, if it can't come tomorrow, but it's not in stock until Monday, it'll come next Tuesday, she'll wait to order it next Monday because she feels like she's winning by ordering it next day. Right? And I feel like that is a really good analogy for life. Yeah. And, you've took over this business from your dad. You'll see that everything that you probably envisaged that your dad did, you now got a real good understanding of how hard it was for him. Why he maybe were a bit tighter in early days, or why he did certain things, why he made decisions. And I think anything in life worth having takes a lot of time, to. So I use St. Paul's Cathedral as a great example. To build something of that magnitude, or to build, the Sixtine Chapel, these took centuries at times to build, not even just years. We want to do stuff now in rapid speed. But the problem with brain development and overcoming mental health struggles is it can't be fixed today. But what you can do is you can get drunk straight away. You can go and get your dopamine straight away. And what we've got to learn to do is that we've got to learn a bit to delay that. So you'll know you didn't get in that shape that you're in by going to gym once.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, I didn't get in shape like I did by eating one bad meal, right? So, and I think once you start to understand that everything, good and bad, happened through a series of choices. And I speak to people all the time, they'll say, oh, my anxiety came out of nowhere. And I'll say, can I jump in? And they'll go, yeah. I'll say, it didn't, did it? And they'll go, it did. It just, honestly, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I said, let's just track me back now for a month, a week, month, 6 months. And it always comes back to something that got left undealt with. And then it were like, well, then it knocked onto my sleep. And then my sleep meant that I hadn't exercised. And I'm eating shit food. And then I'm not really hydrating. And then I don't do well for myself. And then what they find is that it's actually, instead of it being a ton of bricks, it just starts with a little bit of, so it becomes more Chinese drip torture than a ton of bricks. And I think that's the same with compounding positively. To get the ball rolling, to get the thing moving, it takes a lot of effort.
Absolutely.
And it's probably something that we're lacking. So when you talk about school kids, you go to school now and most kids will come and talk to you about how they feel. They'll open and admit that I've had trauma, my parents have broke up, I'm struggling with this, I'm struggling with that. But then if you say, this is what I did to help myself, I go to the gym every day. How many's go to the gym every day? And you'll find 4 lads in that room who'll say, I go to the gym every day. And when you just sit and speak to those lads, it's usually the ones who are the most actual switched on. And you see it every time, don't you? The ones who are sitting on the computer every night in the bedroom are really struggling. And they're the ones that we need to get back outdoors. And we need to really simplify life and get them basics back.
It's interesting. We were talking off camera, me and Dan, about the last time we were talking about drinking and alcohol. And I said, the last time that I got really, really, really drunk and I took it too far was September last year. And you know, when we talk about, have you seen the film Limitless?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And I said, this Limitless pill that people talk about, don't drink alcohol, go to the gym 3 or 4 times a week, or do some form of exercise, eat healthy food, 80-20 rule, drink enough water, and that's all you need. I've never slept better in my life since I've stopped drinking. And I just think for like if it was that simple for everybody, like my mum, for example, my mum was saying that she struggles to sleep, and I said, how many times a week are you drinking? She went, oh, I never get drunk. I said, but how many times a week are you drinking? She went, oh, I'll probably have a drink 3 or 4 times a week. I went, yeah, but that's probably why you're sleeping shit, mum. Not because you're not getting drunk.
Yeah.
And I think my mission now is to, like, it's not even taking things to an extreme. Like, it's just do half an hour to an hour, 3 or 4 times a week. Again, moderate exercise, whether that's a walk, whether it's a jog. If you want to go for a run, do a 5K, 10K, whatever. Eat healthy food, 80-20, 80% good, 20% bad. I'm not saying don't ever drink again, but again, if you're drinking 3 or 4 times a week, just drink once a week. And even at that, drink every other week.
Yep.
For me personally, like sleep was one thing that I really struggled with. And I always put it down to what happened to my brother and the trauma and everything like that. But when I think about, you said that you never really drank. Well, I went for a period of my life when I was probably 18 to 25, where I used to drink every weekend, go out with the lads, get smashed, go to Ibiza. And then 25, I took over my dad's business. And there was one of the first weekends, I went out, took it too far, got in at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then I set my alarm for 5:30, 6 o'clock Monday morning. And I went, fucking hell, I'm not doing this again.
Yep.
And I have done it again since, but it's become a lot less frequent.
That light bulb moment where it's
Yeah,
just like,
yeah. And then when we found out we're having his first child, September last year, I said, that's it, I'm not drinking now. And I drank once, I had a few on my 30th, and that's it. And I just think, like, if everyone could understand how you feel by doing those simple things, I think the mental health or the mental ill health epidemic would be reduced drastically.
See, do you know, so for me, I've never really drank, but I'm not, and I'm glad that you're pushing that message, so I'm not ever an advocate for telling people what not to do, in my thing, because I think we're all grown-ups, and that can often turn people off, can't it?
Sure.
I'm not saying what you've just said would, but like, I always think, instead of ever saying to someone, don't smoke, don't drink, don't do drugs, don't eat chocolate, don't do this, so my kids, I'll give you a great example. So the kids have never seen us drink, so it's never even a thing. So they've never seen me and the mum drink because we just don't drink. But what my kids do see us do is exercise, go running, he's got CrossFit. So my son's flying out to Amsterdam next week, Rotterdam, to go do a CrossFit comp. He's in phenomenal shape. My daughter's just done cross-country comp and come 6th in region. She's got nationals again. And I just think it's like monkey see, monkey do. But I went on a podcast recently and 3 great lads, and they said, what does society need to do more to improve mental health? And I just said, stop it, who's society? And they went, what do you mean? Who's society you talking about? So my society is those people I just mentioned to you. That's my society. I'm very lucky being leader of a big charity now that you can impact more people through what you do as your habits. But my main focus is my little tribe. Right, if my little tribe do that, it's a butterfly effect, right? But when we say stuff like society needs to do this or not do that, we then put all blame onto this imaginary entity that doesn't exist, that no one's ever going to follow or not follow. Because it's just like, if you constantly put it on them, it takes away action from yourself, doesn't it?
Sure, yeah.
So when I think about your mum, like if you go to your mum has been through an horrific situation, right? And probably like the drink is the only time for your mum where she maybe feels a tiny bit of escapism, where she don't maybe think, because what we often do is we're all different at dealing with things. You probably think about Liam every single day, but in a way that you're mission led. And I don't know what your mum does today, but your mum still lost her baby, you know, a little baby that, you know, and I think sometimes what we don't do, and what your mum, from, I'm guessing of her age, just from how old you are, is of that generation where granddad in Barnsley, minor probably, would have been a real tough, or Warrington you were from, weren't you?
My dad's Warrington, my mum's from Gunnerside in Sheffield.
So it would have been a real tough. So even women would have been get up and get on with it. Come on, we're minors, or we're from that type of background. So her dealing with it would have been very normal. But then what she can do is still stick to whatever is working or not working for her. But then there's loads of stuff we can implement in this. So, you know, a big one doing rounds at the minute is that magnesium, and I'm a big advocate for this. So
before bed.
Yeah, magnesium on a night. Sleep like a baby, you know, a lot better, deeper sleep. You feel better, don't you? Hydration, you know, and I'm not even on about just like over supplementing with electrolytes because we're getting over marketed on that. But all these real simple stuff we can do that then probably if your mum wanted to have a drink, and I'm not convincing your mum to drink here, but it probably wouldn't have as big an impact. Because if you think back to when you did that, when you were going out, is what you actually did was you went at 4 in the morning. Right, so then you got in at 4 and got up out, well, you had an hour's sleep. Now you got to go run a business. Then you probably ate shit. You just thought that Mac isn't weighing, and then you can't wait to get out of bed. So then you go to bed at a horrific time. You're up at a stupid o'clock, and it's the knock-on effect of snowball of that. So I'm not sitting here telling people to drink. I'm not doing the opposite. But I'm saying actually, if we got 80-20 of good habits, so we'll probably be all right to get away with 20% of doing what people want to do or not want to do. Now, I'm saying that someone who doesn't drink at all and never really has. I never done drugs, so it's really hard sometimes for me to relate to that as an escapism. But I always use food, which is why you'll see on one video one time I look in half decent shape, and then month after, and that's from years of not dealing with stuff.
Is that from you being a child?
Yeah, and probably not even really even knowing it until you get older and looking back and going, yeah, that's why. And then there's always a deeper bit in there, But I think all the things that you mentioned a minute ago of the 4 things, I'd always had another one in called U time. I don't mean any CDU time. I just mean like, well, that probably help you as well. But I'm on about more U time being like doing shit that you enjoy. And I've got this real analogy, right? So at some point in your life, and we've all done this, you went to your mum and dad and says, I'm moving out because I want freedom.
Yeah.
And freedom came with what? A ton of bills, didn't it? And a lot of pressure. But what you did when you lived at home is you probably went out and met your mates a lot in an evening, didn't you? Because you didn't want to sit at home. And in a weekend, you fill your time doing shit you enjoy. And the minute we become adults, we stop doing stuff we enjoy. And that's another reason why I wonder why we're all miserable. Because if you actually think about, we end up getting in relationships and your partner's pregnant, you'll be working all the time, you've got to spend quality time with the person, who's your life partner. But also like going to the gym with your friends, if that's what your thing is, or actually just going out for a coffee with your mates and replacing the got to go out and get smashed tonight and have a knock-on effect at home to, actually, I'm going to go for a run in the morning with mates, I'm going to go for a coffee, I'm going to go go-karting, I'm going to go do something fun, and scheduling that in. And I think if people give themselves more targets to look forward to stuff, people would stick around a little bit longer to see them through. And that might just be a few weeks' time, we're going to go do a little walk in Peak District, we're going to go do this, we're going to go do Yorkshire Free Peak, whatever it may be. It doesn't have to be big mountains. But just putting stuff in your social diary that may be stuff that's going to positively impact you, that makes life feel good. So when you are working a job that you maybe don't love, people always talk about purpose. I'm opposite to that because I think we need factory workers. There's certain jobs that the society needs to run. But end of weekend, you still got to do stuff that still fills you with purpose. Go take your kids and do something meaningful. Rather than being exhausted end of weekend thinking I've just got to sit in and we'll overstimulate them with iPads and the rest of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. The other day so my best friend, Brad, Elliot, Oscar, Herbie, historically, we would all go out, get smashed. And then the other day, we met up for the first time in a few weeks and we just went to the gym, went for Nando's, went back to theirs and played FIFA.
Oh, good.
And we all said after, I messaged him on a Monday saying, have a great week, lads. How good was Saturday?
Yeah.
All woke up Sunday fresh, feeling good, but we enjoyed it even more so than we would have done previously.
Banter would have still been there.
Yeah.
All that you
need.
It
got heated on FIFA, Christ.
Exactly. And that has just been like back in there going out and all talking to girls, wasn't it?
Well, it's like 30-year-old men playing FIFA, but still having a wicked time.
I love it. I mean, that's what needs more of.
I need to get better at it, but yeah. Yeah, mate, Elliot. We played 2 versus 2, and I just said to her, I says, I'm just going to stop you there, man. I ain't played this in 5 years, so don't get annoyed at me.
Yeah.
You got annoyed at me.
Awful.
But it's true though, isn't it? Like, if I'm very fortunate that my friends, there probably is going to be time in the future where we are going to go out and have a drink together, and that's fine, but equally we can still spend time together, have a good laugh, enjoy each other's company, and have a genuine connection and speak about meaningful things without...
Listen, for centuries and centuries, from millennia, humans have always had inhibitions that need meeting. And everyone's got their own different ones. And if you look right back at tribal days, they always smoked some form of something. Even going back to tribal days now, if you look at West Africa or Central Africa, in tribes where they haven't got TVs and they still live very unwesternized, they still live very like beginning of civilization. They still do some of these things and have ayahuasca and rest of it that people talk about. So there's always a thing that humans have wanted to do that. But I think it's like you say, it's like when it becomes that there's a lot going on negatively mentally, that you're trying to use that as a distraction.
Or an escape, isn't
Yeah,
it?
rather than actually temporarily escaping with something positive, like, you know, playing Nando's, going to Nando's with your mates, playing a bit of FIFA and having a laugh, then feeling good next day to maybe have a difficult conversation with your partner about something that's bothering you, or make a business decision, or look at a financial decision that's bothering you, and actually put steps in place rather than getting that big high because whatever goes up must come down, and putting it under the carpet, which guys are really good under rugging up in that mum or missus will vac it up one day and they don't, because that's not real life, is it? And that's sort of what I was referencing about that microwave society. It never works out like that. It takes time and effort to be able to get rid of all those weeds in your mind, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I love what you said earlier regarding your kids, and it's something I'm really, really excited for, is that, you know, we speak about the epidemic of mental ill health, especially in young children and teenagers. And you rightly said it, it's that everything is instant gratification, instant validation. Like the habit of delayed gratification is becoming less and less and less because social media is becoming more used. Technology is becoming more advanced. So this habit of delayed gratification that we need so much, we need to do it more and more, because the more we delay gratification, the more dopamine that we'll get and how we'll feel, and just generally how life should be. The fact that you just reference your kids, like, you can't change everybody else, but the four walls that everybody is inside of, you know, you can lead from the front, and you can instill the habits that you have every single day. And then what did you say? Not monkey say, monkey do. Like that's what's needed more of. And I'm excited, really excited, because, you know, I can't wait to see how my kids will grow up, because I know that how I am and how my wife is, like that they could come home from school one day and, you know, oh, can I have an iPad, and can I, oh, so-and-so's doing this and so-and-so's doing that. And like, you can do that, but you need to be aware of how, if you spend 2 hours doom scrolling on your iPad, this is how you're going to feel after it.
Yeah.
Because if you replace that by doing this instead, or rather than doom scrolling for 2 hours, just have 10 minutes and put it away and do something more productive.
So in my house, you got me thinking there's two things. One is like we talk a lot about standards in our house. So with the kids, instead of rules, there's a lot of standards. So there's a lot of things that my kids, we call it a standard, but their friends would say, you're not allowed to do that, are you? And I'm trying to convince my kids, it's not that you're not allowed to do it, it's just that we choose not to do it. So my kids don't eat McDonald's. They don't watch YouTube. They're not. My daughter went on a phone till high school and she only got WhatsApp on it. So like, there's no social media. So we've been very strict in conventional senses. But then my daughter,
I agree with that though.
and she's not addicted to a phone. But there was an interesting one for you when you just said that about monkey see, monkey do, because I could sit here and say they're good things about my kids, but my daughter, I had a bit of a debate with some lads about this, a former guest of yours, Alex, and another a guy. Something that had happened. So basically, my daughter did a cross country, and she's a really good runner, right?
How old is your daughter?
She's 11. So she's sort of one of those kids that what she touches sort of turns to gold. She just is. Where my son he's got to work hard at everything. He'll get slapped in the face at first, whether it be rugby, CrossFit, he'll be terrible, but then he just outworks everyone. And he will come home from school tonight, he'll have his meal prep, and he's a 16-year-old, he's going to Marines in September. Like, his standards are so high. And that's thing, and then he'll be like, make a joke about her that she's like Anna Midas. Whatever she touches turns to gold. And recently, she dropped out middle of a race, and I know why it was, but she made an excuse up. And listen, this is really might come across tough parent. In fact, can you chuck me my phone? I'll read it. So it was just something that I thought were interesting, and I've not thought about this until you brought it up. I've not thought about this message I sent to a friend until you've just what you were saying. Then it's just really made me reflect on it. So on the Sunday, she drops out his race, and her mum gives her the usual mothering. Oh, it's okay, you've hurt your knee and that. And I said, oh, great work, you know, but I was really annoyed because I have this thing that whatever we start in our family, we don't quit, right? And that don't mean they've got to be under pressure. It don't mean I need you to be the best person. It don't mean I want you to win. It's just I would rather see you walk and finish and just finish because, and I'll explain. So when I'd told these lads about it, I think it's a bit harsh. I said, oh, maybe it is. Anyway, the following Wednesday, she sent me a voice note just saying, basically, like, back on horse. She didn't say that terminology, but I've just gone cross-country at school and I've just won cross-country at school, so now I've qualified. So then I sent this message to my friends, right? the voice note she sent me, how excited she was. I put, just got that off Albury, which is great, but I want to give the full context of what I meant the other day. When she said when I said she DNF'd, it wasn't about the moment or that race. Quitting isn't always just in that moment, it's about the longer term. And Sunday's race, it could have knocked her confidence and made her avoid that feeling again. But she didn't, and that's what I'm trying to instill. Things don't and won't always go to plan. It's never about the race. It's about putting yourself in situations that show you that you can overcome. One day she's going to get her heart broke. One day she'll lose people. One day she'll lose her parents. And there'll be other crap things in her life that will happen. And I just want her brain to know that I can overcome. That doesn't mean she won't feel it or isn't allowed to feel it. It's actually the opposite. I want her to be able to feel it all. And I never push her to start anything. It's always a choice. The only thing we say as a family is finish what you start unless you genuinely can't. And if you know you truly couldn't finish and you stop, that's cool, because then you'll never live with any regrets. And I just think if as a society or as a culture, we believe that more, that you know you can look yourself in the mirror with no regrets and say, you know what? I couldn't continue. Fair enough. But what I want her brain to know is that when her parents die, when she gets her heart broke at 14, 15, 16, 17, when if she's a boyfriend, that her brain goes, I've overcome before. I push through. If you get used to quitting, you'll always quit. You won't get up when that alarm goes off. You won't go for that job interview. Anytime a bit of discomfort comes, you give yourself an out, and that's what you'll truly end up instilling in yourself. So that's my sort of philosophy as a parent, that there's a lot of love, there's a lot of kindness, but at the same time, there's a lot of standards of like, let's just finish. Let's just get to that.
I think that's, I can see why that your friends might have thought that was harsh in the, initially, but then the way that you explained it, I very much agree with that.
He was coming home and I said to her, bullshit, there's not wrong with you, like, one of your friends took over you for the first time and that's never happened to you, and you've coasted for too long and now you got found out. I said, and that's okay. How you respond to this matters. And then that Saturday she went and did part run, where she holds a record for her age. And then she went to school on the Wednesday and won that competition. And she put in work, and now she's seen, fruits of that labour of going to work. And now I say to her all the time, I've played professional rugby, I know it's like seeing people get forced into doing something. I'll never force them to it. None of them. They've all got a choice. You want to go to gymnastics? Go do 12-week course, but you do 12-week course, we're paying for it. You want to go do a season of football? You don't quit till the end of the season because you see your team out. And I think that's how life should be. See it out. So you could touch business off your dad and thought, getting tough this, let's call it a day. And you got to go through it, haven't you? Because it makes you a better businessman.
Yeah, 100%. I think as well, it's for me, one of my core values as a person is take complete accountability for everything that goes on in your life and take extreme ownership.
100%.
And I think a lot of people, as soon as things go wrong, they always look to other people to blame. But also, when things get hard, with this lack of resilience because of social media and instant validation, when things get hard, people just quit. And then, like you've just said, and I think that's amazing how you've instilled that into your kids, that if you encourage them when times do get hard, that's the point there where you say, right, times get hard, but this is make or break. Either I push through and I become better at it, or I quit and nothing good happens from quitting. And again, you said about this business. So it was an interesting one with the business because the first 2 years since my dad retired, we flew. It was like, I couldn't believe how well everything was going. And then not last financial year, the year before, it came to a halt. And I was stressed out of my mind, cash flow, everything. I was like, what the fuck is going on? And then last year, we're amazing again. But imagine if I'd have looked at things and just like, oh, fuck this, I'm not doing it anymore. Then we wouldn't have had the phenomenal year that we had last year. Correct. It's the same with Liam as well. Like, losing Liam was horrendous and I won't wish it upon anybody. And then 2 years later, wanting to take my own life again was horrendous. I won't wish it upon anybody. But would I be sat here now talking to somebody that I admire and I've followed your journey from the beginning if I'd have quit? No, I wouldn't.
And the story you've now, it's all about story, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the story you've told yourself, which clearly is true, is that actually I can use everything I've been through to now help other people.
Yeah.
You could also sit and tell yourself a story that losing a brother, worst thing that ever happened to me, and my life can never be good now.
Yeah.
And you can do that, right? And that's not diminishing anyone that's ever been through anything. But I'd be a fraud to sit on here and say that all of the nice things you said about his man club, if the lesson I'm teaching my kids isn't because of what I've been through. I'm not saying it because I heard it one day and thought, or read it in a book and went, this sounds good, I'll tell my kids that. I'm doing it because there's times where I've gone into office of Andy's Manclub and thought, do I still want to do this? The amount of shit got to deal with, there's no financial benefit. There's no, and I want to say that in a way that because I choose that, I don't ever want to get paid for it. But there's no it's not like you're doing something where at the end of the month there's a record year of profit and you go, well, at least we're going on holiday. So the amount of time I give to it, the amount of stress that comes with it, the amount of accountability there is on me as chair of this charity and as voluntary CEO, all that pressure at times has been why do I even do this? Why? It takes time from my family, it does this. But then it's the moments of coming here and you saying, I know a lot of my mates have used it, or people I know that have used it in barns, and it's really helped them. And that's compounding again. Yeah. And then I just think, if I'd have quit at some point on this journey, where would it be now? But back to what I said to my daughter, right, and it's an important bit. There'll come in times in life where you have to quit. You have to quit a business because it's not right. But as long as you can say, I tried everything, relationship, friendships, whatever it may be, as long as and that's same as mental health, right? If you could go back and speak to Liam, it's like, mate, just try this. Just try this. Just try this. You'd want to give them every avenue, wouldn't you? And I think we do live in a town with more human resources than ever before. And my big thing is to people is that before you leave this earth, just try everything. Go to Nanny's Manclub, might not be for you. Go speak to your doctor, maybe. Go to the gym. Go and ask a mate if they want to go to Nando's and go play for you. Just do a series of stuff. And then if you get to the end of it and none of it's worked, then, you've got to make your choice. But I guarantee, 1,000,000%, 10 out of 10 times, everyone will always find something.
Absolutely.
But the minute we reach for that white flag, it's game over, isn't it?
100%, mate. With Andy's Manclub, again, the reason why I started this podcast was I thought about myself, I'm one person of overcoming adversity, but there is millions of people out there that have got a story to tell. But there's also listeners out there that need some hope and they need some guidance and they need some value. There's going to be people listening to this that probably may have heard of Andy's Manclub and maybe they're wanting to go to a club, but they're a bit nervous, they don't know what to expect. What is the process like for somebody that's thinking about going, but just needs that little bit of encouragement? What would that be like and how would that work?
So imagine he's sat there now, he's struggling, you don't know where to turn. The beauty of Andy's Manclub is what most people struggle with is when they do finally have the courage to reach out to someone, there's a 6-month waiting list. So then you're like, well, I don't know where I'm going to be in 6 months' time. The beauty of Andy's Manclub is that you can go on the website right now, www.andysmanclub.co.uk, go find my nearest club, type in your postcode and it'll give you a list of every club that is within X amount of radius. It'll be set to 25 miles. They'll also give you an option for an online club for those guys that don't feel comfortable to walk in the door. Then what'll happen is you don't have to tell anyone you're going. You don't have to sign up to anything. You just turn up. And what will happen for most guys is, and I'm trying to make it realistic for those guys, if anyone's listening now, is they're going to go to a car park. They're going to get off bus. They're going to walk. They're going to walk past. They're going to sit in pub across the road and look and see it. Or they're going to sit in the car. And some guys have sat in the car for 3 weeks. But what we have now is a term called a sweeper. So the sweepers are guys who use club facilitators. They'll be sat outside. They're looking for guys out there just for a friendly face. And what I want the guy to realise is, who's listening to this now, might want to go to a club, is you sat in your car, so has that guy before. And he's shit himself about what's on the other side of that door, which is why we make the initial bit outside that door. They'll probably come over here if they see you, say, looking for Andy's Manclub, yeah, come on in, get a brew. When you go in, you'll walk in, you'll get a free brew, you can have some biscuits, you'll sit down in a bit of a circle, and then what will be the lead facilitator of that night will just give a little bit of rules, bit of context of standards at night, what you can't talk about type thing, and also just how the session will flow. Then it'll either get broke up in, depending on the size of the group. If there's 12 lads there, they'll just stay in that circle. If there's 60 lads there, they'll get broke up into 5 groups of 12 or whatever. And then those guys will all sit around and there'll be 5 questions. Well, technically 6, but you don't have to speak. That's the beauty of it. You could just sit there and think, you know what, I'm just going to be a bit nosy tonight. I'm just going to listen and I'm just going to pass that ball on. So there'll be a little ball that'll come round. First question will always be name and a positive reason for being here. You don't have to give your real name. You could say your name's Batman if you wanted. It really don't matter. And the reason why I ask for a positive reason is because most guys who are there because they're at the end. There's no positives in life. And actually, just by finding one positive, the fact that maybe this is my last chance, this is the bit of hope that I need, this is because I really need to talk. My wife's told me I've got to come. Like, they've now just implanted one little seed of positivity in their own mind. Then the real session starts. How's your week been? Well, any guy can answer that. No matter how dark they want to get or not dark, they can just say, week's been shit past balling. Now we shit sandwich it with a positive from your week. So what's positive from your week? So now a guy again who's been in the depths of despair, 1 out of 10 for all week, has now got to find one positive. And that positive might be, well, actually, it's coming in tonight, it's getting a free coffee. It's the fact that my daughter smiled at me this morning. So again, it's another seed. Then it's the deep, dark bit. It's out to get off your chest. Is there anything you want to give your chest? This is where the really big, deep, dark shares will come. And then we always close it off with 2 positive questions. So, it could be something along the lines of, I think this week, because we enter them as a staff group as well on a Monday. Question 5 was actually, so quick fire this week was, if you could sing any karaoke song, what would it be? So mine was Man in the Mirror, Michael Jackson's always been a song I like. Number 4, I think, well, I'll make it up just for the purpose of this, is what's a goal you've got for between now and next week, and why? There's always an and why question, because what does an and why do? It attaches emotional attachment. So if that guy's goal is actually, I listen to people on day today, I'm going to go out walking because I've heard how good walking is for you. So I'm going out walking because I want to feel better, because I want to be a good dad. Because the ultimate goal on his man club is to stop people taking lives, but the real goal is to make better men, better fathers, better brothers, better uncles, better sons. That's the real goal of Andy's Man Club. Yes, we want people to stop taking their lives, but not everyone who goes to Andy's Man Club is suicidal. So what we really want to do is these guys to understand that the power of talking, but the power of listening and the power of taking an action away from a group and having that community. Because that's one thing we're all missing, right? Community. Which is why, whether you and your friends on that Saturday had played FIFA, or you'd gone for a walk at park, or not gone to Nando's and done something else, it was just the fact that you were together. Yeah. And all you did is you put a purpose around it. Let's do these 3 things because it means we're going to stay together a bit longer. And it could be a group of my mates all meet Tuesday mornings. It's run, sauna, breakfast. And that's what they do. It's their time together. Some guys can't go to run, so they go to sauna, they can't go to sauna, so they just go for breakfast. And it's a real nice community because that's what we all want. And then after that session, the guy will be asked if he wants to join a closed Facebook group so he can check in during the week. And then off he'll go, and we'll see him next week, hopefully. Or maybe not. And maybe he'll go off in that one session alone where enough just to realise that actually what I'm going through is similar to everyone else, and I'm not just on my own in this battle. And it doesn't just become a poster on a wall then that you are not alone. You sit with 12 other guys who are all going through some big problems. You realise that, but I'm not on my own here.
I think that's one of the most powerful things, isn't it? Because when you're in that despair and you want to take your own life, you think it's just you, don't you? And a lot of the time, there is a high percentage of men that think they're a burden to other people. But then when you realise you sat in that circle and you're not on your own, it just gives that relief. It's not just me. I've not been to Andy's Man Club, but I can just imagine the power of what it's like sat in that room and the energy that it brings.
I think when you were going through what you went through, if you were there thinking, I've lost my brother, look how that ended, but now I want to do that, look what it's going to do to my mum and dad, but I'm a burden with how I'm being and how I'm acting. But then you sit in a room and there's maybe just 2 lads that you can actually relate to. Maybe look a little bit like you or act a bit like you, you can just feel that. But then you actually these 8 other stranger guys who are completely different to you, but somehow you weirdly connect to them. Yeah. And then suddenly you sat with these 12 lads who you'd never go out for a beer with. You'd probably never see them at gym. But they just, for some reason, no matter whether one of them's homeless or one of them's operation director of a multinational company, they all have this ability now that they've took the mask off and the ability to connect. And suddenly you leave there thinking, I'm not weird. Because there's 12 of us or 20 of us or 60 of us. At one point back in before COVID, there's 90 of us in a room in Leeds who've all just opened up, and I'm not on my own. And that facilitator, when he opened up, said that this time last year he went depths to spend, now he's facilitating a session. He's just given me hope. So then what Andy's Man Club becomes and each individual becomes is like a lighthouse for all those other guys at dark times. And then what do people want to do? Give back. So now what do they get? Purpose. Because now actually just the person who stands at the brew station, the sweepers, the facilitators, they're all guys who've used club. And what most people don't know is about Andy's Man Club. What I think is the most beautiful thing of Andy's Man Club is that how it works at Andy's Man Club, you have users who are looked after by facilitators. And we'll use the word looked after. We're looked after by area leads. So area leads are guys who once a user, became a facilitator voluntary, and then when an advert came out, so South Yorkshire now has got 2, because it's that big, the area that we're looking after. They've got 2 lads who run this area. They'll go out and do free presentations. They'll go and open clubs. They'll support existing. The guys who walk through the door and were at depths of despair. So talk about selling your mission. You can't sell your mission any better, even though we're not selling anything, by guys who've used it. they're overseen by a regional lead, so like in a normal business, a regional manager. But the regional manager was a guy who's club, who became an area lead. And then they're overseen by what's called a head of groups for England and Wales and Scotland, who are two guys who he was a club, became facilitators, area leads, regional leads, and now oversee, between them, 20, 30 staff. And then on the back end of staff, a vast majority of people came in as a volunteer because they've got their own story. Maybe they lost their brother. Other people came in as a volunteer. A general manager came in as a volunteer, and she's worked her way up to being general manager of Andy's Man Club, the leader, I guess. And she came as a volunteer. We've got lads who work in office, who do the post and send stuff out and send out merchandise out. Our operation spot, guys who use club, became facilitators and now work for a charity. And it's as head of IT. Guy who's club, came along instead of facilitator, now he's head of IT. And I think that's the beauty of it. And I used Emma, who's with me today, as an example. That's a young lady at the time who came in, gave her a chance at the social media. She excelled and then she progressed. Then what you have is sat in your SLT, is a lot of people who have just lived the mission. So then there is no need to continue to hammer about culture, although we do still have issues with that at times. But because all those people have experienced what it feels like to have been served by that charity, now they want to serve that charity. And then we call that the gratitude model, the butterfly effect.
Amazing, mate. Love it. I think it's absolutely class. If you could take us to one room on a Monday, one man's story that stayed with you, where would it be and who would that be? Or what would the story be?
I think it's really hard because I think there's lots of stories where different guys. So I'm going to take you outside of a room. So I think when you go to that room, you're so engulfed in it that the way that guys tell stories isn't how we're doing it now, where we might track back and talk about when we were 8-year-old or stuff we've been through. It's talking about in that moment, innit? And I think what I'm going to put like a helicopter approach is the thing that takes me most is the differences in people. So I remember the first night at his Man Club, sat with a guy who ran the doors, a guy who were operations director of a multinational company, big company, chair of this big hot dog company. There were a guy who were homeless, there were a guy who were out of work, there's a guy now who's head of IT who were off work sick because of where his head were at. My brother were there, and all these guys just sat, and that's what was so magical. But the bit that always stands out to me, I don't know why it stands out to me more than anything, I get messages all the time. In fact, I've just had a message on way here off one of our facilitators, just saying, I know you'll get messages all the time, but I want to tell you how it's made me feel. And when you do get that amount of messages, it don't lose its impact, but because you know that it's really helping them people. But I think it's sometimes when something that's shock and awe you. And I was in my kids' playground, I just dropped my daughter at school, I was talking to my mate, and a guy just came up to me and just says, you're Andy's Man Club guy, aren't you? And I'm like, depends, like, just what minute, it depends who's asking. And he said, I just want to let you know that I want to be able to drop my daughter off at school today if it wasn't for your group. So I sort of knew what he meant, but I wanted to, I won't be here. I won't be alive if it wasn't for your group. I come to a group here, we had a group at that school. I come to a group here, and if it wasn't for this group, I would no longer be here, my daughter wouldn't have a dad. And I just said, thanks. And that guy has always stuck with me to this day as that story, because what you saw there wasn't the guy's story, you saw the impact it had. And the impact is far more important to me than what happens in the group. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So what happens in group is amazing, but the fact that this guy and his daughter is not a bereaved daughter of suicide because her dad opened up that group is what's magical to me. And I think the other one for me is like the desire to give back. I think when a guy comes to the club and it helps him and then he wants to give back, that's the magic of it for me. When these guys are so passionate about it that they just want to give back so much, and they want to do presentations for us, or they want to shout about us, they want to put us leaflets up everywhere and post about it, and they just bleed black and white now, and they just want to tell everyone about Andy's Man Club because of the impact of what it had on them. And I think the reason why Andy's Man Club itself does so well is because there is no like agenda. And I think often with charitable movements or with, missions, it can be like an hidden agenda. You always hear bad stories about charities, and I would never bag any charity, but you just hear it. I think what's so real about his Man Club is that everyone buys into it because they know how authentic it is, that we're just doing what we want because we want to crack on. So we get no funding, no government funding, we get no lottery funding. There's no funder for Andy's Man Club. It's all done on people's goodwill. right? And if we didn't, but what that allows us is to have 100% unrestricted funding, which means we don't have to appease some prick in a suit in London who is signing off where he thinks our service is good enough and he's never visited it. What we actually have is the funding is decided by the very people who use and are supported by the group, and every decision we make on what we purchase or what we do is for the good of the group. So we take on more staff, it's because we want to grow an area, you know, and it's always like that.
Yeah. Just listening to it, man, that was brought a tear to me when you mentioned about the guy, because that's why we do what we do. There's no other reason really, is there? But for me, the nicest thing that anyone's ever said to me, I was on a night out in Leeds, you know, a district.
Yeah.
Came out of there 3 o'clock in the morning, hammered, and this big black guy came over to me. I think, fucking hell, he's going to start on me here. And he went, "Are you Tom Stark?" I said, "Yeah, mate, is everything all right?" And he went, "You saved my life." And I just burst into tears. It makes me feel emotional now. I just burst into tears. I just gave him a massive hug and he said, "Thank you." And I'm like, fuck. All right.
And that's what it's all about. That's the why, innit?
Yeah.
So when you start a question right at the beginning, and it really hard to just summarise that in the intro.
Yeah.
But that's why.
Yeah.
So why is that feeling you get when you lay down at night and you think back to that story of when it does get a little bit harder, you think, can I really be asked going on doing my podcast again?
Yeah.
Can I be asked having to organise that while running a business? Can I fit that time in? Then you think back to that, or going and doing the talks in the schools, or putting your content out. And then all you got to remember is that why of that dad in that school, or that guy in that night out who came up to you at a time when you least expected it. Because you'll get hundreds of messages, and it's not the messages that they aren't impactful and you don't appreciate them, but it's that moment when you're in normality.
Yeah.
When you're in normality. When I'm in gym and lifting, the guy says, "I think your club said something like that." You're like, whoa, I didn't wasn't expecting that. I expected a formal email. Do you know, it's that sort of feedback, innit?
Yeah.
You know, I trick people all the time, so I always love the fact of like when people don't know that I'm the Andy's Man Club guy, and then they might see a wristband, or I see their wristband, and I'll go, "Oh, that's a good wristband. What's that about then?" And they'll go, and this happened in Ventura on holiday, and a guy there, and the best one, he was a good one. So I were in Ventura. I go up to a buffet stand, and guys got a wristband. I said, "Oh, what's that then, mate?" He said, "Oh, it's Andy's Man Club, this." He said, "Great charity." I said, "Oh, what's it about?" He said, "Suicide prevention." He goes, "Massive where I'm from. It's where it is. It's where I'm from, Cumbria." So I'm laughing now, thinking that he thinks this is great. I love this. So I'm like, "What's it about?" He's like, "Male suicide prevention." They get guys to, "I've never been. I'm cool." He said, I put it in, "Look, my mates," I tell everyone about it. I get them all there. Amount of guys that my mates that's saved. That's right. And I always love asking people when they don't ask me, because they're going to tell me what they really think of it.
Yeah.
You know, my mate when he was shit, all that. But they tell me, and when I hear stuff like that, it makes me smile, just like, and there's a saying, and it talks about leadership, and like, a leader's job is done when they say we've done it. And it's not about the leader then. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So it's about the people that you leave in charge say, we did it. Because that's your job, right? And I think I've got to a point now in AMC where your job is to lead through others. So you try to empower others. So I keep using Emma as an example that, you know, whether she's man, woman, old, young, her ceiling on her aspirations in life should be limitless, because she's come in as the youngest staff. And that should be for everyone to have that same thing, that there should never be a ceiling on what you think is possible. And I always say, if your intentions are pure and you focus on impact first, everything else will take care of itself. Everything. And using her as that example as someone now who's leading this podcast, having conversations with people that you wouldn't even believe we get to speak to. You know, we have Softy Tissues has brought out their own Andy's Man Club tissue that are all over bloody supermarkets. And just, you know, I always just think about that, and I always think that I once saw a guy put on Twitter, and this is a random thing. He put on Twitter, "I've been doing this years now." I know what to say it was. "I've been doing this years now, and I've never had an award." So I messaged him privately and said, "And that's why you've never had an award." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, we've won loads of awards and we've never cared about them. We openly actually say at the awards night, it's great that we've got this, but we don't do it for this. And we actually find it quite cringy that we get awards for doing this." I said, it's never about that. But if your intention is why ain't you had an award because you did it for a long time, you're doing it for the wrong reason, mate. And I don't think he does it anymore. And what
was it that he was doing?
Something in a certain space.
Oh,
I would never do that because I wouldn't want to.
No, fair enough. Yeah.
He's just a good micro example of the amount of people that do something, thinking there's a knock-on effect. Where actually, if you focus on like, and I'll give you an example. I remember once going in with just on Leeds United. Leeds United had Warriors in warm-up tops in thing. And this was pulling my rugby.
Leeds fan?
No. But I'd gone to one of his staff is a massive Leeds fan. We sat around a board table, and I should have probably given him a little bit more time to think. But I come from a rugby environment where last week's gone. We've played. We're on the next game now. So I was like, great work, but that ain't saving lives this week, is it? That was last week. So awesome work. And I've probably enough time in my life not maybe appreciated it enough. But I think that's why Andy's Man Club stays so grounded at the same time, because we don't sit and clap too long for ourselves. We do have moments where we're on a Friday, we'll all sit and we appreciate each other, we appreciate what we've done. Let's get on with next week now, because this problem ain't going away to sit here and celebrate too long. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that's why, and I were very fortunate. The Man City CEO, and I do like Man City, invited me to a game, so which were a bit like surreal for me. Rugby player. Anyway, it turned out, and this is how they told it, that he was desperate for me to go to this game because a couple of things he tried lining up, I couldn't attend. Anyway, I went to this game and they literally wrote blue carpet. I've never felt, I understand why they're world champions. I've never been treated like that ever at anything we've done with Andy's Man Club. And we sat down and somebody said to me, we were really interested. And I says, he goes, do you know why we picked Jews? And I went, no. So when he said picked, they decided as a community that they'd lost some fans to suicide and they wanted to pick a charity. They said, we reached out to 20 suicide prevention charities, and every time we said to them, what can we do to help you? Every one of them says, a number is what they give us, a number of money. Your guy turned around and says, what can we do for you? He said, we ever asked Man City what it can do for us? He said, the only thing he did say is if by chance you could let us have a venue at your club so we can support your supporters, that'll do. Off the back of that, they give us, I went to their talk at half-time on pitch, they put us on his Man Club stuff around, but worth millions of pounds that. They have us on advertisement outside ground at every game. What happened then? City rivals, who's City's rivals? United. Now we've got a club at Man United because, monkey see, monkey do. Liverpool is just about to do one. We've got talks down in Chelsea. Like these are just, and these don't cost us out, but we don't ask them for out either. But the moral of that whole story is that anything you want to do in life, as long as your intention is pure, the other stuff will happen as a result of that.
Focus on the input rather than the outcome.
Yes, the outcome will take care of itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and if it don't matter because your input is you're still wise.
You control everything in your control, don't you?
100%.
Yeah. Just a quick one. Most of you watching this episode aren't yet subscribed. So if you want your weekly motivation from some incredible guests, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn your notifications on. If you feel comfortable, can you tell us about Andy?
Yeah. So Andy, the Andy that people know now isn't the Andy that he was. So if you spoke to his mum, she obviously called him a little devil, but he was a little shit. Like proper little shit. I mean, like, probably never ever explain that to people, like the U-turn he'd done. So when I met Lisa, his sister, Andy were in prison, right. Young offenders, right? And most people won't like know this, like, because they just see this like Andy on his Man Club. We talk about this, me and Lisa, and Mum sometimes as if he was this angel now. But just a lad who got in with wrong crowd, who were all the wrong crowd, including him, where they just did stupid shit together, got in fights and rest of it. But as a human being, a very unbelievable guy. I couldn't remember when I first ever met him, I'd gone to my partner's house and there were a little bit of a birthday party on, and I'd never met a more kind and caring. I couldn't understand. I said to her, Lisa, this guy ain't been to prison. She's like, no, it's just like when he's with his friends, they just do stupid stuff. Anytime an older person walked past, do you want to have my seat, Auntie Susan? Do you want to have my seat, Auntie Wendy? Go get them food. And I'm like, this guy. So he obviously just gone down that wrong path. But I always remember when he got to about 19, and I do a lot of work in prisons, and I've bumped into people who've known him as like one of the best lads we've ever had in here. In fact, we'd used to get him in like Weatherby to nip and speak to people. So if they had a problem with some guy who'd come and cause an havoc for guards, they'd say, Andy, go have a word with him. He wouldn't have to do all, but he was just that guy. But about 19-year-old, 20-year-old, I think he'd just come to the end of his stint. He'd had this moment of realisation he must have had where like, what am I doing here? So he just turned his phone off. Never answered the door again to his friends when he used to knock on the door, all these bad lads. That were, still some of them in and out of prison now. And he just got away from them. He then wanted to join the army. I had a gym at the time. He started coming to my gym. He'd got himself in good shape. Life was going good. And then leading up to that weekend, I'll always remember it. And I've always sort of like protected, sort of this story, but I'll give it you as right. He were having problems with his ex, and he had a daughter to her, and she were giving him stick about not seeing her after this weekend and that. And the only thing that you can ever sort of look at is that the stuff Andy went through in that trouble, he'd been really not straight and narrow for 3-4 years. But as soon as you start thinking about going to court over your daughter, it's not going to end well in your head, is it? That's all I can sort of believe. And he were at our house on weekend, he were laughing and joking, sort of even saying that, look at crap I'm getting sent now, this is the sort of stuff I'm dealing with. But it'll be all right, he said it'll be sorted. Anyway, goes and plays football next day with his mates, the short, ends up playing, scores a goal, goes back to my mother-in-law's house for Sunday dinner together. Next day goes to work, don't come home that night. Tuesday morning, he's found that he's taken his life, and you know more than the devastation that comes from suicide. It's like nothing else. I've experienced a lot of death growing up. People are very close to a lot of death. But when you lose something, it's just a different feeling because it constantly leaves you with why, or it constantly leaves you with what could I have done different, what could they have done, and all this picture. And I think that sort of like the biggest lesson that I sort of took out is life is so fragile, isn't it? And I'll never forget, sat in Andy's front room of his mum's house, in the mum's house, and a couple, probably the most slapping face realisation ever. I was sat and everyone in the room's crying their eyes out, and there's different people ringing, asking if it's true, screaming, cousins coming down, running out screaming. No one can believe it, because same with Liam, suicide wasn't talked about then. No one, like you weren't, before Liam, you might not know, I didn't know one. I didn't know about this. And then I remember this couple walking past window, because it's right on the roadside, walking the dog, just laughing and joking, right? They're not wrong, laughing and joking. And I just like had this moment where I'm like, inside here, this is like other world spinning, this is everyone's world ending. But actually it goes on. As awful as it is, life just goes on. So then we're like, what are you going to do about this? Are you just going to let this be it? And I remember being really angry. And I went up and I'd gone up to her, I felt like I had to sort of step up and help out and help tell people. And I went and got his car, and I remember driving home, and then as I turned his car on, last music song that he'd have had came on, and then all these little bits, like I'd seen at Co-op where he'd been down at Co-op, I'd seen a McDonald's receipt where he'd obviously just nipped to McDonald's for his final, like all this mad stuff like that. I'm driving home, and then we had to go up and tell then my son, and Alfie and Andy were like that. Andy had Alfie tattooed on him because Andy, when he were home, he lived with his mum, so Lisa would bring him down there a lot. He'd spend loads of time when they were so close. So when we told Alfie that Uncle Andy died, like the screech you let out as a 6-year-old boy who said we're living with her, that's my why. It'd probably been an awful opening to explain the why. But that was the why. The why is that no kid or no one should ever have to experience that feeling. And I drove down that night. So literally it's that day, and I said to myself, I need to work this out. And I'd been doing a lot in mental health. So I have a mum who was severely mentally ill. So I'd been doing a lot in mental health, but never knew about suicide. So I texted a psychologist I used to do some talks for. Mate, explains, and he started telling me about people with anger, have got more chance of being impulsive, and etc., etc. And I thought, it kept coming back to this thing when I started diving down it. Men don't talk, or they do it hiddenly, they just go do it. And then I was like, approached my partner 4 days after he died, said I want to start submitting Andy's name. And obviously it's very rash when you can't do all the shit. Let's funeral, coroners, let's go through all that. And it were 3 months after he died, I'd sat on this idea for a long time. And I approached mother-in-law, I said, I've got this idea, I want to start this coffee club for men, get them up. I said, I've got a little unit that I use for a business up at this old place. If we've got to play football with them, rugby, we'll just do something, we'll get them up there. And her response was beautiful, because I had this name, Andy Roberts Coffee Club. And she said, it's got to be bigger than Andy. It's too many people, it's got to be bigger than just his name. So we'd gone away, and I used to, Keith Senior, if you remember Keith, he used to live with me, Keith. So when he was going through his hard time, before all this, but we used to have this thing called Man Club, but it was no mental health based, but maybe it was on reflection, but it wasn't. We'd just meet, me, my best mate Brett, my old man and little Alf, and we'd sit and talk shit. It was just below this greasy calf above gym that I used to have. We'd sit, we'd talk shit and just put worlds right. We might talk about women doing his, just like stuff. And I'd gone away and thought, that's the concept.
Yeah.
We're just blokes talking shit, but actually we could maybe structure it. And I'd gone back to her about this idea of Man Club, and I've been thinking of like Andy's. So instead of a guy saying I'm going to so-and-so mental health, so I'm just nipping to Andy's, love. So then we're like Andy's Man Club. And then how the actual story goes is we started Andy's Man Club, we get there first night, she nipped to Morrison's, she bought tea and coffee, we met down at this unit. She's the only woman to ever attend Andy's Man Club, ever. And what was beautiful about it, she sat out where we sat around and we had this session. I'll never forget, there was this scruffy looking foam ball on the floor. I picked it up and I was nervous. And this old bloke who was an Halifax fan at the time said he was a counsellor, definitely won. All right, we found that a few weeks. They definitely, if he was, he shouldn't have been. Anyway, chuck that ball here, cock. Come on, let's get it going. So I chucked him ball. Bum opened up about losing his son, but not suicide, but opened up and he was like, wow. So he fruit ball this other guy called Oliver Vicks. Oliver Vicks is now our head of IT, who's come out with fruit thing, and he's like opened up about his story, passed it to his mate. And then what we found is his first night, everyone opened up, we all left like, Nine of us told us full stories week after talking. Third week, it got a bit boring, no offence. We all told the story, like, well, I've heard your story. I don't know about what happened to you, 8-year-old now, do I? And thing. We all felt that. So I like, I don't want to tell you all that again, guys. So like, why don't we put some structure to it? So we did that. And then, like, after that second week, when we had 15 men, and we'd had this little structure, I'm like, we need more people need to know about it. So I'm sat on the toilet at home, and I thought, how can we raise awareness about this? Press up challenge, we're doing rounds at the time. Oh, ice bucket challenge, sorry. Ice bucket challenge, doing rounds at the time. And I thought, we need to do something. And I thought, we're already saying it's okay to talk. That was like our little tagline. Why don't you take a selfie? So I tried doing one at the toilet. Right, you couldn't tell we're at the toilet. When Mrs. says, terrible idea. Like everyone's doing like fun stuff where they all get involved. It's like crazy. Like, just think something a bit different. No, it won't work. Anyway, I took this selfie, and we used to have a bit of a joke that we were slow burning, but he won. Within that night, like rugby players had done it, boom, and then I remember my mother-in-law being on holiday somewhere in this country, like a caravan where they had no signal. By the time she'd got signal after 4 days, we'd gone on it. And I remember getting phone calls off national newspapers, off TV interviews, like everything. It was just like crazy. Then we did like a Lab Bible video, and Lab Bible were doing a video called Andy's Story at the time. So then they decided to get involved. So then they tagged Ricky Gervais. Ricky Gervais had never done anything other than promote cats. Then it's just gone, Danny Cipriani. It's just worldwide suddenly. And then where it got tasty then is that Lab Bible put, anyone that want to know more about this, email at that point, luke.ambler@aol.com. Well, you can imagine the amount of emails I personally got. It were horrendous. Because I told the world it were okay to talk, and they all thought that meant directly to me. And every night I were up till midnight, 1 in the morning, even stories. And the stuff I've read, and I did this sort of bit of fun for my mates the other day. My mate, like, you never guess this message I got other day. And he actually, I said, I bet it want this. So like, just as a joke of something like, someone had sent me once. He's like, someone's actually sent you that in past. I'm like, weekly, mate, I used to get stuff like that. You know, they are most horrendous things you could even, not even bad, just like that person had just found their husband in that moment, and the first person they thought to message with me. Yeah. And I'm like, and they graphically how they'd found him, and they'd no one else to turn up. Like, dealing with that.
How did you deal with that though? Because I have had a lot of similar messages, and my wife Amy's like, I can't believe that people are that open and graphic, and you're meant to sit and deal with that. And I'm like, yeah, but in that moment, like, they see this guy online talking about his trauma, they think that I'm the only person they can relate to. And at the end of the day, I've opened myself up to this. This is the work that I do. So you just got to do what you can and help where you can. How did you?
I don't think you can deal with it. I think you could sit here and say you could, and it'll come a point for yourself as well. And we tell all the facilitators, so we turn off Messenger on local pages.
Right.
Because all it takes is now, touch with this never happens, is one of those guys, and I'm up in the listing now to feel comfortable to message you, but you're on holiday, you're with your family, you're asleep. But Tom's talk said to talk, why have you not messaged me? And you find out next day that they're no longer here.
Yeah.
That's not your fault. And that's a really deep thing. But, but you become a crux to people. So then what you have to create is like
boundaries.
Yeah. And systems that actually says it is okay to talk. One thing I always say to people, and I've said this on a lot of podcasts, you know, guys who suddenly got passionate about it, so say, my inbox is always open. Guys, I said, whoa, never say that. Yeah. Because it ain't always open. Is it open 2 a.m. on a Monday night? No. So don't say that.
I had it, I just proposed to Amy in Dubai, and we had this really, like, the most, as you can imagine, the most amazing time. And then I'm getting millions of messages, and then I just get a message off someone saying, I want to kill myself. Yep. And I'm like, fucking hell, like, I've literally just had the most special moment of my life. And obviously I didn't want to take away from what he'd said. It was awful, but it's like you said, like, at the end of the day, like, we still have a life to live, and we don't, not that we ever want that person to feel that way, but ultimately, like, you know, there's got to be things you can't take away from something, like, apart from getting married to her and finding out we're having a baby. That's probably the third most special time of my life.
Yep.
And then I've got a memory of somebody telling me that they want to.
And then you've got the weight of the pressure of, do I respond? And I've been in a situation where I've responded, and then my partner's like, what are you doing on your phone? I'm like,
I can't not reply.
I can't not reply. And then you've just got to the point where automated messenger on your Facebook that just says, this internet, a crisis line. We have at AMC, this internet crisis line. We're groups for men. Speak to Shout, speak to Samaritans.
I think you've just given me an idea, because with Tom's talks, my social media pages have just blown up, and obviously it's amazing. But I was looking on TikTok the other day, and I had like 300 unread messages. And obviously it's a full-time job in itself replying to them, but I feel like I need to have something in place, just saying like, I will come back to you as soon as I possibly can. If I don't, I'm trying my best. If you are suicidal, this is papyrus. This is, and something like that. Because I sit sometimes, I feel awful. I think, fucking hell, there's hundreds and hundreds of people wanting to talk to me, but I feel bad. Like, you can't physically. It is a full-time job in itself, replying to people, and then you reply to somebody, then they send you a reply, and then
and then you become therapist.
Yeah.
Where you can't be accessible all the time, and most people struggle mostly at evenings. You try to wind down, you try to get your good sleep in, what you spoke about, you try to get on top of your mental health.
Yeah.
I could tell you some horrendous stuff of which no one would know, where guys have messaged on Facebook and then I'm at their house at 2 a.m, knocking the door with some of the mates. Or where a guy, one that always stands out is this lad was struck, look, we didn't go Ambler, we didn't go in, like come in, so we, took his door, went in, and he actually went up to the bedroom and he was there, but we were asleep. He'd just been out in big sesh. And we're in his bedroom, he's like, whoa, he's all doing it, well, everyone worried. Like, I became, and then I started getting asked to speak at people's funerals. Like, and it become like this thing where like, I had to say, like, this is too much. And then you feel really bad because, well, your guy was telling everyone it's okay to tell you it's Mr. Suicide Prevention. So then it becomes, oh, you're a fraud, because it's fraud in it. I messaged him and he didn't get back to me. Like he built that so that like that.
Have you had that?
Oh, look, like early Andy's Man Club. I did a video once in Andy's Man Club that ruined my life. Do you know how much shit I got there? I must make loads of money off it because it's okay to talk went viral. I must kill it off Andy's Man Club.
Really?
And I think it used to get me. I did a video when I first started Andy's Man Club. It was for Halifax. So I'm starting it and I was really giddy. I got nervous. I'm starting this idea. I'm going to get guys talking, but I know there's a lot of shit around charities at times. So I don't ever want it to be about me. I don't want it to be about money. I just want it to be this movement where we get guys talking. And I said that day one, and I've never faltered from that. But in fact, sometimes to staff, I'll share videos from year one to say, tell me anything that's different from the message in here. And they're in, right? Yeah. And I think what was so hard is like, when it blew up, the amount of people would give you shit. Like, there was a big one in Halifax once because there were a big cluster of suicides. It's clearly Andy's Man Club's fault because before this, people didn't take their life. No, they did. But they just didn't know about it. When someone died before, you just want to put it on social media that they died. Now what happened is say when Liam died, it'd have been rest in peace Liam. No one would have put, my brother just took his life at 15. But what happened after Andy took his life is everyone put in rest in peace John, hashtag it's okay to talk. So everyone knew it were a suicide. So then it became hard. And then like the finance side, because I played rugby and my business was doing well, naturally people associate, he's got an alright car, so he must be doing it well off charity. And then I started realising, once I delved into further areas, is that I was in a sauna with a mate, and it was like a changing moment for me, all this, because it used to really bother me. I don't care what people think, but it really bothers me when there's no truth to it. Like, there's actually so much bullshit when you're actually genuinely just pure. And my mate just said to me, he's like my best part, and I won't give away, and he'd be like, did you see that so-and-so on Facebook the other day shoulder pressed 100 kilograms? I says, no, I didn't. He says, good, isn't it? He went, full of gear though, isn't it? I went, how do you know he's full of gear? He went, it just is, innit? I'm like, why won't be do that? I went, just because you can't, you don't have to now justify your inadequacies by putting something on him. I went, it's just my opinion, and he walked out. When he come back in, I went, how many people have just had an opinion of me and no one's dared to challenge it? I said, and I would challenge anyone, like, on anything when they start saying something bad about it. Someone goes, so-and-so, he seems arrogant. How do you know that? Which is my opinion. Where's your opinion based on? And I think I do that because it's like, I wish someone would have fought my corner. Then now I think I don't care anyway, because again, it's back to that. 10 years deep.
I struggled. I got a few comments when Tom's talks, the followers started going up a couple of years ago. Oh, you're making money off your brother's death. And it used to really get to me. And I was like, that was the year where OSI had a phenomenal year. And I'd actually given £10,000 to Mind Barnsley Rotherham charity, or 5,000. I can't remember. It was a lot of money at the time, and I felt like saying that I'm 25 years old. I'm 26 years old. I've just given this amount of money to charity. Like, how dare you say that I'm making money off my charities there? And the thing about it was like I said to you earlier, when I first started doing it in 2019, I was like, no, just, can you give money to Andy's Man Club, please? Like, I don't want any money for it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until the schools were like, look, we've got a budget for this, like, let us pay you.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, fair enough. If you really want to pay me, then sound. I'm like, well, you tell me how much it's worth. I'll charge that and I'll give 10% back to charity.
Yep.
And that's what I've done ever since. And it's like, literally, take Dan, for example, videographer. Like, every single video that I put online, the podcast, everything, it's him. And obviously,
Dan's the one making money.
he's the one fucking rinsing it. Like, everything, like, the majority of my money
Dan's editing that bit out.
is invested back into the business. And for me, it's like, yes, I might charge a fee, but everything that you see online, apart from the odd selfie video, I've invested heavily into that. And without charging, without charging a fee, I wouldn't be able to sustain the amount of content that I'm putting out. And for me, the amount of messages, the fact that I've got 300 unread messages from people either asking for advice or telling me that I've helped, like, it just...
It's also okay, innit, that you...
Yeah.
Like, I had this with... Me and Len were talking about, I was just like, Len, we're very fortunate. Like, I know about anyone else as well, by the way. Like, I know some phenomenal charities now in this space where the family members are either founders and work for the charity, because that's the reality of life. If it all consumes you, it's your job, so you got to do it. I was just very fortunate that when I played rugby, where it might not have been a lot of, like, loads of money, but I could sustain doing it alongside it. Then when I started my own business, so I have 3 companies, and all 3 companies support me to be able to do this. So if I didn't, then I'd probably have to. So it's really naive of me to ever say that I would never do it, work for it. But the fact is that I've set my life in a way that I don't need to. So I just think that, like, you've still got a, you know, a company say it to me all the time, or anything I ever do, you know, my biggest one that I'm so bad for with AMC, and Emerald voucher this, is that, so I don't even take expenses from AMC, so that's how bad it gets. So, like, not only do I not do all that, I also, when we're in London, I always buy Emma a tea. I'm sure, you know, they all cost me money, Emma and Stu and that. And then I feel bad, so then I'll get it. And then Sabrina and Jeremiah are going, why do you keep doing this? Like, so it costs me like a lot. But I just think, like...
But you don't care though, do you?
No, because just the impact.
Yeah.
And I think, like, it might be airy fairy, it might be cloud cuckoo, but I just genuinely believe in karma. Genuinely believe in karma.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Most people don't. But a 15-year-old, I'd sort of started doing jiu-jitsu, but, like, not like people do it now. And the guy who did it, a guy called Les Allen, he were a former Buddhist monk, so he taught us all about Buddhism, right? And most things I actually talk about now are actually Buddhist philosophies. In fact, all Western psychology is based on Eastern philosophy, right? Mindfulness, meditation, being present, attachment, you know, fasting, all these, you know, therapies. And I just think that, like, that genuine ideology of putting good energy out there constantly and challenging negative, it comes round, but you've got to genuinely not want out to come back for it. Like, if you go, well, if I do this and be nice and give Tom something, I might get some. No. Just do it now because it's the right thing to do. And if you do the right thing, it's the right thing to do. A result of that down the line might be, and my dad said to me the other day, something good happened in my dad went, you know what, that's just because of what good you do. Just because of what good you do. He's like, you're just reaping what you've sowed for years and years with you. Because like, when you're doing well in life, Luke, everyone does well in life. So if your business is well, we all feel benefit of it because you're a giver. And I just think that, like, you know, as a result, that's just that life. Because then even when they take away it all, it don't matter. You've all, you know, we're all going to go into the ground anyway, aren't we?
Yeah. No one's going to remember when you're gone how much money you made or anything like that. They're just going to remember how you made them feel.
That's it.
Yeah. How old were you when you started Andy's Man Club?
26-year-old.
10 years ago?
Yeah.
If you could go back to Luke, 26 years old, it's 4 days after Andy's passed away, and you're thinking about doing this amazing thing that it is now. If you could go back and have a conversation with him, what would you say?
Don't do it. I know you want to really impactful then. Don't do it. No, if I could, I'd just say enjoy it all. Because along this 10-year journey, you're going to have the highest of highs, things that you'd never even be able to imagine, genuinely. And you're going to have the lowest of lows, the things that you'll never even be able to imagine that's going to get said and done, and the hardships you're going to go through. But every bit of it is going to build you into being a better dad. And I think that's the ultimate thing for me. And even now, I don't get it right. I get it wrong as a leader. I get it wrong. You know, I'm impulsive at times. You know, if we ever think that we're finished article, we're done, we're cooked. I don't ever go in there every day But what you have to do as a leader is exude certainty, even when times are uncertain. When it's chaos at Andy's Man Club, I've got to be the calm. And when it's calm, I've got to go in and be the chaos. All right. And I just think that that's the beauty of it. Like, if I could go back and say anything, it would be genuinely enjoy it all, because the good's going to pass and the bad's going to pass. And at the end of it, there'll be a lot of people that you're going to help. But if you can't see that now, you'll never see it. So I think that's the beauty for me in it all. And listen, there's been some, when I say highs of highs and lows of lows, there's been some horrible things, like you say with the messages or letters to, when I had a coffee shop once, I got a letter off someone that were pretty naughty, and there's just the people we're dealing with at times can be very frightening. And then, I'm a kid from a single parent background and I've been in King's front room of his house. So it's just wild. And I never let either really, as much as I try to get to me, because I think whether it's that or it's that, I always laugh actually about grounding yourself when things are going well. And my partner's really good for this. She's not the type who gets madly excited by anything. She just isn't. It's just how she is. But she also don't really, gets a bit stressed, but don't get really down about stuff either. Sort of like in Buddhism, we call it the middle path. And I remember going, the only time I reckon I could have nearly changed, I'd gone to then Prince Charles's. I'd been, all these people tell me how amazing what you've done is, and this is very early days. And I sort of left all these dignitaries feeling like, right, man, I'm walking to get my kids from school today, I'm thinking, do my kids need to go to this school? Do I need to do I need to really step up here, how I am? Because I've just been in Prince Charles and I never get ding text, don't forget mince fit shepherd's pie. Brilliant. And I never ever questioned it again. Like, that's reality. That's just like, you're straight back to normal, straight back down to earth with a bang. And that's the beauty of it, innit?
I love it, mate. Just before we finish, mate, and just before I ask you this question, I just want to say I have the utmost admiration for you and respect. And when you started this 10 years ago, I remember I sent you a message and I did that photo and I tagged all my friends and I was just like, I can't believe this is a thing. I just thought, oh, if only Liam could have gone to it. And it just, it makes me emotional. But I just want to say thank you. The amount of lives that you would have saved, it's incredible.
Come here, man.
Thank you.
Come here.
Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate everything you've done. Thank you. I fucking told myself I want to cry on this.
And just saying that's the impact, innit?
Yeah.
Like, that is, you just don't know where the butterfly effect of everything.
Absolutely.
And I hope that you know that I follow your stuff with admiration. Everything you're doing, it's class. And
thank you, mate.
You're looking down water.
Yeah, I'd be proud, mate. It would be proud. Andy, for you as well, mate. And
I hope that, have you heard of you'll have heard of like the Mexicans' theory on death?
No.
So Mexicans' theory on death, and this is a great one to finish, and this is sort of like what I really believe in. So the Mexicans' theory on death is that it's 3 deaths. 1 when you die, 2 when you go in ground, and 3 when the last person on this earth mentions your name. So on that belief, both Andy and Liam are still very much alive out there because the names are mentioned every single day. Yeah. And I think that's a real beautiful thing to think about, that we all have 3 deaths. So what will be the thing that people keep saying to you about you long after you're gone? Yeah. And it will ultimately be how you made them feel, won't it? So, and I think what you do with Tom Talks, it'll continue to thrive and help more people.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate it.
Look after yourself at the same time.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And again, I wanted to do this podcast because I genuinely wanted people to listen and to help. For the people listening, just to remind them, if somebody watches this will be going out in a few weeks, and it's a man that's struggling, and Andy's Man Club is a facility there to help them. What's the steps for them to go? Their local club, how do they get there and what do they do?
Firstly, they've got to accept it's a problem. They've got to accept it. They've got to accept they need to get some help. You might actually be a wife listening right now and you want to direct your husband there or your son or your brother. Tell them. You might be a mate who thinks your mate's struggling. It's the best way to do it. Tell your mate you're not doing too great. You want to go to that group. Bring him who you're worried about with you. Look up website, andysmanclub.co.uk. Find your nearest club. Just turn up. Turn up. Starts at 7 o'clock every Monday apart from bank holidays. 7 till 9. Turn up. Free tea, free coffee, free biscuits. We often have a joke actually recently. I said, I know what, because there's a terminology that people got, like, when I went my first night, I left like I'd been drinking 5 cans of Red Bull. And I joked with someone in office the other day, said it's because you had 3 coffees and 20 biscuits. Well, that's why it's probably not great that on a Monday night we give people a plough full of coffee, sugar, and then we all leave like, woo! So it's a beautiful thing. And I just hope that anyone listening finds their Andy's Man Club, whether it's Andy's Man Club and what we're doing, whether it's Tom's Talks, whether it's Samaritan's Mind, whether it's just going to a local run club, because I think that's just as powerful for people. Join some form of community, reach out, go and enjoy yourself, express yourself, and realise that, as I hopefully took away from what I'm trying to say today, is that it all passes. It just might take different time frames to different people. The microwave society, it's not going to end tomorrow. It's not going to be next day delivery. You might have to suffer for a week, a month, a year, a decade, but it will all get better, and it'll all be worthwhile long term.